The NES is known for some amazing action games. Ninja Gaiden, Castlevania, Mega Man. Yet a game you don't hear a lot about is Journey to Silius, a hard-as-balls action game in which you run through 5 excruciatingly challenging levels to avenge your father. You play as a young man named Jay. His father is killed in some sort of boom that happened on some sort of colony in space, and when searching his belongings, Jay finds a note left behind that describes that terrorists are at work. So Jay sets out to defeat them and their robot army. If you haven't heard already, Journey to Silius was supposed to be a Terminator game. You can see the inspiration throughout the game, with the heavy presence of robotic enemies and the high-tech stage designs. According to a tidbit on GameFAQs, the sequel to the movie had been announced and the owners of the rights wanted someone a bit better known than Sunsoft to work on it, because money. Sunsoft's wallet was allegedly a bit light due to the fantastic Batman game that they had released, so Mindscape and LJN picked up the Terminator games. And those were some of the best NES games ever made. And yes, I'm being sarcastic. If you've played games like Contra, you'll understand the basic mechanics of Journey to Silius. You move around with the D-pad, press A to jump, and B to shoot. For your basic gun, you have infinite shots, which is good because enemies have a tendency of requiring multiple shots to take down. There aren't a lot of holes to be leapt over, but they are there, and yes, there are typically enemies nearby to possibly knock you backwards into one. Although Jay doesn't fall back too far when taking damage, so it won't reach Castlevania levels of frustration. Jay doesn't just have a standard pistol. You also start the game with a shotgun, which doesn't really do any additional damage, but instead just fires 3 shots in a spread pattern, with 1 shot going straight and 2 others going about 45 degrees up and down. Not always useful, it can be handy to shoot down threats that are just out of your normal range. At the end of each stage, right before the boss, you'll fight a mini-boss which drops another secondary weapon when defeated. You can get a machine gun that rapid fires your normal power shots, and a missile launcher that also homes in on targets. If there are multiple enemies on the screen, the shots will alternate targets, which can lead to some unnecessary ammo waste. And yes, all of the non-pistol weapons share ammo, so you do need to be careful. I've read that there's also laser rifles and a grenade launcher, but I haven't reached far enough to see these. There are only 2 power-ups that you'll find as you defeat your enemies. One is ammo, denoted by the blue capsule. These are dropped semi-often, and as long as you are careful with your trigger finger, you shouldn't be running out of ammo. The other item is a red capsule, which gives you a sliver of life. And by sliver, I mean this. You'll get maybe a bar or 2 when you pick one up, and sadly, these power-ups are incredibly rare. I've had entire playthroughs of the game where I didn't see a single health capsule, which really sucks when you're cruising through a stage and really need one. I'd be fine with the rarity of the health power-ups if this game wasn't so dang hard. Seriously, it's brutal. Enemies can do some hefty damage to you, and there are some occasional cheap shots, such as enemy bullets striking you when you are on an elevating platform and cannot move. Also, when defeating bosses, you cannot move once the explosions start, yet enemy shots can still kill you, which happened to me on my very first attempt on the second stage boss. Talk about controller throwing anger. In addition to this, by default, you have only 3 continues and 3 lives on each run, with no chance of extra lives. There is a very helpful cheat code in which you press B 33 times, then start at the title screen, to bring up a menu that allows you to get up to 9 continues per run. This is only a small amount of help though, since when you continue, you need to start the entire stage over. And getting through the stages unharmed, or at least without losing a life, is a real test of skill. Even with this code, I wasn't able to get to the 3rd level boss. I could reach the mini-boss, but in a typical scenario for this game, I died as I killed it, resulting in a game over. I called it quits here. You also don't regenerate any of your ammo upon death, which can be a real bummer if you use up your shots on a boss and die before it's defeated. Hope you're good with the pea shooter. Even though the game is challenging, I can't say it's unfair. I've noticed as I've replayed the first 2 stages, I did start to memorize where the biggest threats are, and got through taking less and less damage. So I'm sure if I wanted to keep spending hours playing, I could probably get to at least the 3rd level boss. It helps that the graphics and music are above average. Sunsoft is known for putting out quality games on NES, and this game doesn't disappoint in those areas. Even though the robotic enemies are pretty much just white with black outlines, they have an okay level of detail. but the level backgrounds and themes look fantastic, with lots of bright, colorful flashing lights in the indoor stages and a bleak, depressing atmosphere when outside. As for the audio, holy crap, this is one of the best sounding games on the system. Right from the title screen, you get this rocking, upbeat track that motivates you to hit start right away. Yet you don't want to because of the driving beat. Get to stage 1 and it gets even better, with an awesome bass line and what could be a guitar slamming notes down your ear holes. I know a lot of people rave about Blaster Master's opening stage, and yes, it's great, but I feel Journey to Silius might be a bit better. Stage 2? Man, every time I hear Stage 2's theme, it doesn't leave my head for hours after playing it. It's a mysterious theme, which sets the mood for this dark terrorist hideout. I can't explain it, but seriously, you should give this game's soundtrack a listen if you're into good 8-bit music. Better yet, that sheet that gets you to the menu where you alter your continues also includes a sound test, so you can check out every song without even really playing the game. The music composer for Sunsoft really knew how to make music on the NES that stood the test of time. And that's Journey to Silius in a nutshell. Yes, it's hard, with some occasional cheap shots, but the solid gameplay, detailed visuals, and phenomenal music help push you forward. Every time you beat a stage, you feel like you've accomplished something, and want to keep getting further. I wish there was a password system so that earlier stages wouldn't have to be replayed so many times, and I also wish that the stupid health capsules were a bit more prevalent, but when those are my only real complaints, you know you have a gem on the system, and one that deserves to be enjoyed by more gamers. I wholeheartedly recommend Journey to Silius. Final score? 7 out of 7. This is Reaper. Happy fragging.